Hello, welcome to Math with Mr. Dobrescu, to the rescue. Today we are going to continue with SBAC review part 2. And let's take a look at this problem here. Use the figure below to answer the question. And in this figure here we have two parallel lines crossed by a transversal. And the problem is telling us that line A and line B are parallel. And the question is which two angles are congruent. Let's take a look at A here. We have angle 1 and angle 3. Angle 1 and angle 3. Since this line was angled this way, we see that even as a visual, angle 1 is smaller than angle 3. Angle 1 is actually an acute angle, and angle 3 it's an obtuse angle. But we know something about angle 1 and angle 3. We know that if we add them together, if we add angle 1 and angle 3 together, we get a straight line, which is 180 degrees. But it cannot be the answer for our problem. So we are going to cross that answer because A cannot be the answer because those angles are not congruent or the same. Let's take a look at option B here. Angle 1 and angle 4. Angle 1 and angle 4. Angle 1 and angle 4, as you see, they look the same. Just as a visual, they look the same. But we know something important about those two angles. Those two angles are opposite from each other, and we call that vertical angles. And we know something about vertical angles, that they are congruent. They are the same. So we can say that angle 1 and angle 2, actually angle 4, angle 1 and angle 4, angle 1 and angle 4 are congruent because they are opposite. Because they are vertical angles. Please remember that vertical angles are the same or congruent. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 4 are vertical, therefore B is our answer. But let's take a look at C and D. C, we have angle 3 and angle 8. Angle 3 and angle 8, again angle 3 is obtuse, and angle 8 again is an acute angle. So even as a visual, they don't look the same, so they're not the same. So this cannot be the answer. And finally, C, angle 5 and angle 7. Angle 5 and angle 7 are the same as angle 1 and angle 3. Angle 5 is an acute angle and angle 7 is an obtuse angle. But again, if we add 5 plus 7, angle 5 and angle 7, we get 180 degrees. But it cannot be our answer because they are not congruent or they are not the same. Let's take a look at another problem here. Here we have a cylinder and a cone, and they're asking us, use the diagram of the grain silo below to answer the question. And here we have this shape is made up of a cylinder and it's also made up of a cone. And in order for us to find the maximum amount of grain in cubic feet the silo can hold, we need to find actually the volume of the cylinder first. And then we are going to find the volume of the cone second. And we are going to add the volume of the cylinder plus the volume of the cone in order for us to find the total volume and find out the maximum amount of grain in cubic feet this silo can hold. So let's take a look at the volume of a cylinder. Now, the volume of a cylinder is the area of the base. So area of the base times the height. Okay, but as we look at this problem here, we see that the base is made out of a circle. So think of this as a soda can. So the soda can, the bottom of the soda can is actually circular shape, right? So the area of a circle, if you remember from 7th grade, is pi r squared. So the volume equals area of the base, pi r squared, times the height. And let's see what we get now. So it's going to be pi. We are going to keep the pi in our answer. And let's find the r. Now, we do not know the r because the problem is not giving us the r. But we know that from this side to this side, we have 18 feet. So what do you think would be from the center of the circle all the way to the edge of a circle if the entire, from one part of the circle to the other part, going through the diameter is 18? Of course, it's going to be 18 divided by 2, or half of the 18, which is 9 feet. So our radius is going to be 9 feet. Our radius is 9 feet. So let's substitute. Instead of r, we are going to put 9 squared. So times 9 squared and times the height. And the height is actually 24. The height of a cylinder is 24, and they are giving it to us. So let's see what we get now. So let's see here. So we have pi times 9 squared is going to be 9 times 9, which is 81. So times 81 and times 24. And okay. And don't forget feet cubed at the end. So let's multiply now 81. Let's use a calculator. 81 times 24. And we get 1,944. 1,944 pi, and don't forget the feet, and it's going to be cubic feet. Okay, so here we're going to also have the feet, cubic feet, and cubic feet. Okay, so that's going to be the volume for the cylinder, 1,944 pi feet cubed. Now let's find out the volume of the cone. In order for us to find the volume of the cone, there's a formula for it, but let me explain to you a practical example here. Imagine that this cone is filled with water, and then I have, in this end I have the cylinder, and in this end I have a cone. If I pour water in this cone, how many cones you think are going to fill up the cylinder? And if we do this experiment, I've actually did the experiment, and it's actually 3 cones are going to fill the cylinder exactly. 3 of these cones full of water is going to fill in and fill the cylinder. Therefore, the volume of the cone is still going to be the area of the base, which is still the area of the circle, which is pi r squared, right? So it's going to be pi r squared, okay, times height. We still have the height to multiply by the height. But now, because 3 of those cones fill in the cylinder, we have to divide by 3. Don't forget that. We have to divide everything by 3 because of that reason I just explained. And then let's plug it in and get the final answer. So we still have pi, r is the same, which is 9 feet, so it's going to be 9 squared times, the only thing is the height here is 10. So times 10, and everything is going to divide by 3. And let's see what we get. Okay, it's going to be pi. 9 squared is going to be 9 times 9, which is 81. So times 81 times 10, all divided by 3. And 81 times 10 is going to be 810. So here we have pi times 810 divided by 3. And let's see what we get now. So 810 divided by 3, and we get 270. So it's going to be 270 pi. And don't forget the feet cubed, the cubic feet again. Don't forget that cubic feet. Feet cubed, feet cubed, feet cubed, and feet cubed. Don't forget that. Now, since we have both volumes, we have the volume of the cylinder and the volume of the cone, let's add those two volumes together in order for us to find the final answer, right? So the final answer, the volume is going to be, the total volume is going to be 1,944. 1,944. We're just going to put the numbers here and add pi feet cubed at the end, plus 270, plus 270, and let's see what we get. So we have 270 plus 1,944, and we get 2,214. So it's going to be 2,214. Don't forget pi and feet cubed or cubic feet. And this is our final answer. Okay? So again, please remember, if we have a problem like this on the test, which you may get, make sure you get the volume of both shapes. In this case, the volume of the cylinder and then the volume of the cone. And make sure we add those two volumes together, and then we get the final answer. The volume equals 2,214 pi feet cubed. And let's take a look at another problem here. And in this case, we have a right triangle. And it says, use the figure below to answer the question. And the question is, using the Pythagorean theorem. Remember that theorem we just learned not too long ago. Very applicable theorem. Pythagorean theorem. What is the value of x? And if they're asking us this, we always start with the Pythagorean theorem. And if you remember that, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I told you never to forget that. So let's have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And now we are going to substitute the values for a, b, and c. And in this case, we need to find what's our a, what's our b, and what is our c. And remember, a is the smaller side or the smallest leg, which is x. B is this side here because it's next to x and is the other leg, which is next to 90-degree angle. And remember, c is opposite of the 90-degree angle. So this is our c. Okay? Let's plug it in now. Instead of a squared, we're going to plug in x squared. Plus, instead of b squared, we are going to plug in 24 squared. Equals, instead of c squared, we are going to plug in 25 squared. 25 squared, and let's see what we get. X squared is going to stay in the answer for now, plus 24 squared. Let's multiply 24 times 24, and this 576. 576 equals, and we know that 25 squared, 25 times 25 is 625. 625. And now, in order for us to solve for x, we have to subtract 576 on both sides. 576 on both sides. And let's see what we get now. 576 and negative 576 cancel each other out. So we have x squared equals, let's subtract those two numbers by the side. 625 minus 576. Okay, here we have to, we cannot take away 6 from 5. We borrow from the 2, make 2 a 1, make 5 a 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. And again, we cannot take away 7 from 1, borrow from the 6, make 6 a 5, and make this a 11. 11 minus 7 is 4. So it is 49 actually. X squared equals 49. But we are not done yet because they're asking us only for the x, not for the x squared. Therefore, now we have to square root on both sides. And remember, square root of a squared is going to be just x. And square root of 49, two numbers multiplied together to get 49 is 7. So the answer is x equals 7. And we call that inches. 7 inches is our answer. Please remember again that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and use this Pythagorean theorem to find a missing side in a right triangle. And let's continue with our these two problems here. In this problem we have, what is the value of absolute value of 3 minus absolute value of negative 19. Remember, absolute value is always positive. You learned that in the 7th grade, because absolute value of a number represents the distance from 0 to that number, and distance is always positive. So again, absolute value of 3 is going to be positive 3 minus an absolute value of negative 19. It's also going to be positive 19. So now we have 3 minus 19. And if you remember that, we have to subtract 19 from a smaller number. But if you remember that song again, opposite sign subtract, take the sign of the larger number, then will be exact. So let's subtract the numbers first. 19 minus 3 is going to be 16. And now we are going to take the sign of the larger number, which is 19, which is negative, and we will be exact. So the final answer is negative 16. Now let's take a look at number 9 here. What is the square root of 100? What is the square root of 100? Many of you should know this. This is a fact that many of you already memorized it. But again, square root of 100 is actually square root of two numbers multiplied together are 10 times 10. So square root of 10 times 10, okay, is going to be 100, which is actually square root of 10 squared, and square root of 10 squared is actually just 10. So 10 is our final answer, okay? Now let's take a look at the last two problems here. I know there are quite a few problems, but we have two more problems here to review for that state test. And again, in this question here, the question is, what is 2.15 times 10 to the negative 4? So we have this number here. We have 2.15 times 10 to the negative 4. And they are asking us, what is that number in standard form? To turn this number into the standard form, we are going to, from this decimal, we are going to move the decimal. If you remember that when we did the scientific notation, we are moving that decimal to the right 4 places. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we are going to add 4 zeros, right? So 1 0 here, 1 0 here, 1 0 here. This is a decimal point. And then we're going to have another 0 here at the end. So the final answer here will be 0.00030215. And this goes away actually, because we moved the decimal to the left 4 places. So the final answer is this. And of course, the answer is C. A cannot be the answer, B cannot be the answer, and D cannot be the answer. But actually, the answer is positive 0.000215, and this is in the standard form. Please remember that. And finally, let's take a look at number 11 here. And number 11 here, they are asking us, what is cube root of 3 to the negative 6? And here we have to remember that 3 to the negative 6, this is an exponent problem under the cube root, can be written as 1 over 3 to the positive 6. Please remember that fact. So we have cube root of 1 over 3 to the positive 6 in this case. And now let's see what we get now. Let's continue to keep the cube root for now. Cube root of, we can write 1 as 1 times 1 times 1, which is actually still 1, or 1 to the third power, right? We can also say that cube root of 1 to the third power, and then 3 to the 6 can be written as 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 squared, right? Because here we would have to add 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 2 is 6 and keep the base, right? Or we can say 3 squared all to the third power, right? And you got to be very careful how to tackle this problem, because now we need to find the final answer. So here, remember, cube root 1 of 1 to the third power is going to be just 1. Because here we have 3 of those. We have 1 times 1 times 1. So from all these 3, the pair of 3, just 1 comes out. So cube root of 1 is going to be just 1 over. And now here, cube root of 3 squared to the third power, right? Since we have 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 squared, only a 3 squared is going to come out of the cube root, and no more cube root. So the answer is going to be 1 over 3 squared. And everyone should know that 3 squared is actually 3 times 3, which is 9. So the final answer is 1 over 9. Thank you all so much for watching and paying attention to this problem in part 2 to review for that state test. And I know now after this practice, you will be well prepared for that test. And please make sure you put your best effort, do your best on the test. And see you in our next video. All the best to you.